good to see everyone again after all of these years. Make sure this all works. So that's Pierre Proudhon, who's an anarchist, and there's been a lot of obviously fun about the discussion about the U.S. election and politics. I do want to go into that, but I also want to talk about why software is effectively a sort of solution to the problems that we face today, rather than trust in politicians. However, before going there, I just want to kind of give a shout out to everyone at Web3. So I don't know how many people raise your hand. Were you anyone here in 2000? I think it was 18, the first Web3 summit. There's one in anyone here in 2019? So for when I was first getting interested in blockchain technologies, we're working on mixnets. And I was here, Amir Taki told me to come. I said, okay, cool. And I came. And Ashley, I think, who was one of the previous organizers, invited me. And Gav has been very supportive of us. But effectively, NIM itself would not exist were it not for the Web3 Summit. The kinds of connections that you make here could literally change your life. I remember just a few years ago, we had a mixnet. We had a kind of half-working beta. We didn't have any money, really. We were doing things with very small R&D grants. And I saw all these people pitching projects, and I was getting a coffee with Amir outside, and some guy walked up, and I said, maybe I should try to fundraise to build a mixnet. I said, I don't think any VC in their right mind would fund privacy. And the guy next to me was like, I fund subversive text. And he gave me his signal, and he said, get back in touch later. And that ended up being Olaf from Polychain, who then helped us raise our second round. And then we met people here who introduced us to Binance and many other great connections. So I really do want to thank Amir Taki and Gav and everyone for helping invite NIM here. And really, we wouldn't have got funded. We wouldn't have built the software we built had Web3 Summit not exist. And I hope everyone here has similar experiences. So just to go into the political, I was very surprised that all of a sudden, many of my friends became very supportive, mostly of Trump, to be honest, or of the Democratic Party. And hilariously, a few years ago, I had a fight over should people engage in representative politics with a coworker of mine. He blocked me on Twitter, and that coworker gave the keynote yesterday, working for a blockchain company. It was very funny. But I think the kinds of behavior that we're seeing, the kinds of bending the knee and hoping that some new elected president or some new powerful government figure will somehow get that mass adoption that we want, that's very dangerous. First, that's not how you build real users or real social movements or real anything. You don't build it by begging power to hand you money or to buy your coin. That's fragile. Those people will always have power over you. They will be your authorities. And then you have to sponsor or endorse their ideologies. These are ideologies which we're clearly seeing become more racist, more nationalist, and more just generally authoritarian. And crypto anarchism in general means no masters. The A is the no, and the an and the arsh is the master or guiding principle. So it means no masters. It means that you do not have a master. There is no authority but yourself. So when you're on Twitter and you see people who are kind of famous, what's his name? Ryan, 2-bit idiot, emphasis on idiot, pushing, telling people, I hope you get deported, Look, I'm a political refugee in Switzerland. Okay, I got kicked out of Britain, basically got my ID card. I got kicked out of France. NIM is in Switzerland because they're crypto friendly, but also it's one of the few places we can run a privacy friendly company, and I, as an American immigrant, can live. So, of course, it's completely against our ethos to want to remove entrepreneurs, remove anyone from where they want to live and where they can create an impact. And these arbitrary walls and borders are ridiculous. And a lot of it is on the right, but we're also seeing it on the left. You know, the first critique that led to a lot of cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin, was the critique coming from the 2008 and 9 financial crash. And this led not only to Bitcoin, but it led to social movements like Occupy. But the same people who I saw in the streets demanding that we kind of stop the banking system and stop its corruption and how it's destroying our lives, those people are now endorsing, Harris or Biden, they become essentially hardline Democrats. And that's absurd because it is simultaneously true that Trump is an authoritarian con man. I'm very doubtful if he became president, he would free Ross Ulbricht. He talked about freeing Julian Assange and didn't do shit. And then at the same point, you don't want to back the people who are trying to shut crypto down and centralize power back into the big banks, which is the modus operandi of at least the Democratic Party. And then you realize that, I'm in Berlin, and this is exactly how fascism rose to power in Berlin. It rose because the German industrial class thought Hitler could pump their bag, so to speak, and threw in with him and their toxic ideology. And we should not do that. And I think what we should do is we should go back to our beginnings. Most of the mythology that you have been taught about Silicon Valley and the history of computing is wrong. Steve Jobs did not invent the personal computer. The personal computer came from people like Lee Fesselstein. It's in the book Hackers, which is about Richard Stallman, who's speaking later today, who were building essentially early internet systems, the People's Computing Center and community memory, for essentially the free speech movement. And of course, you can't have free speech if you're in an authoritarian regime. And privacy is a prerequisite to free speech. I want to be able to both express myself and not have to express myself. And I don't want to be punished for expressing myself. So you see, from the very beginning of personal computing, there was a move to try to democratize, try to spread, decentralize power out. And of course, it gets hijacked by companies that then re-centralize power, but that's where the innovation happens. That's why Web3 and blockchain are interesting. And the cypherpunks who carry that torch onwards, and this is where we, NIM, take our name from this True Names and Crypto Anarchy, they were all over the political spectrum. Tim May, the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto, was a fairly racist, crazy person, but also, had a vision that technology was going to change society. And other people in the cypherpunk circles, Jude Milhoon, the first perhaps great feminist hacker, was very left-wing, worked with Lee Fesselstein in community memory, basically in a squat, building some of the early personal computers. These people worked together because they recognized, despite a lot of their differences, that the true enemy was essentially the centralization of power, particularly the centralization of state power, but also centralization of commercial power, the centralization of personal power, the centralization of informal power, and that technology was a way to confront that power. This is the heritage that we are building on. And I would like for people to remember that a pox on all the houses, both the Democrats and Republicans in the US, and all the raging fascist movements rising in Europe, and also the absurd deep state liberalism that we also see with their fake multiculturalism while maintaining their power structures. These are terrible, terrible options. We need to build a new option. And that is what technology can help provide. The cypherpunks had a vision, and their vision had digital currency, and that more or less works nowadays. I mean, you can make it faster and do relatively minor optimizations, but their other visions were more just as, I would say, powerful. The first thing that they were interested was David Chaum's invention, a mixnet that could enable actual anonymous communication over the internet. And so what I said last time I was at Web3 is that we're going to build a mixnet. And we built it. I'm going to demonstrate it to you later today. But for those of you that don't know or didn't see the presentation so many years ago at Web3, this illustration is perhaps the best. What you have is you have Nym. Nym is a mixnet. You can see how it works probably easiest by comparing it to other pieces of software. So if you have a VPN, all of your traffic goes into a VPN node, a single centralized data center, really, and it comes out. And so that data center knows everything you're doing on the internet. It sees all of your web traffic, and that's very dangerous. Those VPNs are almost all, I would maybe give exception to Proton and Mullvad, because I think they're reasonably nice people. But, Express, Nord, I don't know what people use nowadays. I mean, they're all owned by one or two companies like Cape Systems. Most of these VPNs are just utter scams. They're actually even ran by data collection companies who gather your internet data and sell it. Right? So this is terrible. Tor decentralizes that technology, and that's much, much better. But the problem with Tor is that while it is reasonably fast, you can see that while it's not one computer, it's kind of your traffic goes through 3 computers, the Tor relays, that traffic is still, it has the same shape, the timing and the volume, what we call the metadata. A sophisticated enemy you could easily see how the VPN can be observed and someone watching the traffic, internet traffic coming in a VPN and out of VPN can identify you. Those dots, the timing, the volume, and the size of your traffic, they form a kind of unique fingerprint. And the enemy can do the same thing on Tor. And this is, the NSA or any company with a reasonable amount of AI-based machine learning, they can do the same thing. And so they can do that effectively by just monitoring the entry and exit. So what Nym does is it takes each packet and mixes it with other packets, delays, adds noise, and then routes each packet independently. And it basically mixes the traffic up so it all looks the same coming out. And that gives you much better defense against a large adversary that can, like God, watch the entire network. And the problem, though, is another big issue is identity. And David Chaum also had wonderful work on blind signatures, which became anonymous credentials. And we built an anonymous credential system, and it's decentralized. I'm going to show you how we use it, but it's a generic system. We currently call it ZK NIMS for zero knowledge NIMS, NIMS being names. That's where it comes from. Anonymous is no name. And ZK NIMS, we are going to try, thanks to the support of Web3 Foundation, we're going to try to get that over to Polkadot and Substrate by end of 2024. But just so you know what it is, it allows basically anything to be kind of like a list of attributes to be proven in kind of zero knowledge. So this is quite useful for zero knowledge proof of payments. I can send you some money and get a receipt that I sent you money. I can make that receipt anonymous, so it's not linkable to my original sending. You can also add other attributes of any kind. Am I American? Am I not American? Did I vote? Did I not vote? Whatever. And you can selectively disclose those. You control who gets the information. And then what we did, which was not in Chaum's original work, is we decentralized that system. So it's essentially a threshold signature. And so how it works in Nym, our ZK NIMS, is that essentially we have validators. They make shares and credentials. They give them to users, and then those users kind of regather those credentials. They re-randomize them, and they're unlinkable, and they can then use those to do things like, for example, access a mixnet, which is what we use them for. So we've built Nym in the last few years, and thanks for everyone who supported us in whatever way you did. There's wonderful people, the people who did the Gong thing earlier, Hux and Vespa and many, many other people. Pineapple Proxy did a lot of work in Berlin. not just NIM's kind of employees, but it really is a community effort. And we built we have 700 nodes running all over the world, a bunch of different validators, gateways, which are kind of like the first hop in the network, service providers, which are people that are using NIM in some way or another, such as PasteNIM is very nice. It's like a little anonymous Etherpad. And the network works. So we know we have, for the first time in a very long time, a huge decentralized mixnet spread across the world. So this is the cypherpunk dream that people were dreamed in the 80s and 90s. And thanks to the power of cryptocurrency and Web3, we finally built it. But the problem is we had this vision that developers would just kind of show up and use it. And the fact of the matter is very few people did. Few developers built some nice things, and we tried to support them. And it's still, if there's an ecosystem fund, you can apply. We'll get you in front of VCs that want to see NIM succeed. But the fact of the matter is we didn't get the developers we wanted, and no one built a killer app. And so we said, we will just build the killer app ourselves. We want to make privacy simple and easy to use as effectively these terrible centralized VPNs. So we decided to build what we call NymVPN. It allows real users to use what is otherwise a very hard piece of software to get anonymous internet access. And it works basically on all major platforms, works today. So it is slow, just so you're warned, because it's a mixnet. The mixnets mix the traffic up, and they add noise, and that kind of keeps you slow. The nice thing about mixnets is everyone can be anonymous in a crowd together, so the more people that use our software, the faster it will get. And we're also adding WireGuard and a bunch of other things to make it super fast over the next few weeks. And I want everyone, if you have a moment, to try it out. So this is today. Again, 4 years after announcing we're going to build this, we have built it, and you can download it on Windows, Linux, iOS, Mac, Android. If you're on iOS, you have to get a test flight and then install it, because that's how Apple works. On Android and everything else, you can just download it from our webpage. That's the webpage. However, when you install it, there's a little bit of an issue, which you need to use this anonymous credential to log in, right? And how do we get an anonymous credential? I'm going to walk you through it. The first thing you do is you go to nymvpn.com and you sign up to the mailing list, because right now it's free, so you can just use it. It's a free VPN. Go for it. In order to use it, you just put your name in that, not your name, your email, and then you hit submit. And then you can see kind of get app on the corner. You download the app for whatever platform you have. I use GNU Linux because I support Richard Stallman and free software. You can download that software. I'd highly recommend doing it. But when you download it and you notice it doesn't work. It says you need to add a credential. But if you signed up to the mailing list, you will get an email that with a kind of cool eclipse, thanks to Pablo, our designer. And that kind of, when you see this email, it says get your redeem code. You click on the redeem code, and that takes you back to our webpage. That redeem code is put. You access the redeem code, and that redeem code then gives you the ZK NIM. And again, it's an anonymous credential. It's kind of like a re-randomizable blind signature. And you can basically take the NymVPN app and you can scan that QR code, or if you're on your desktop, you can just cut and paste it. And it's a little bit trickier than I like, but this is how it works. You can sort of see the flow here. You go to the kind of little gear wheel on the top of the screen. That's your settings. You click it. It says add a credential to connect. You click on that credential, connect. It says, welcome, where's your credential? And you just add it by either cutting and pasting or taking it from the QR code. Then the app just works. You're in. You've anonymously shown that you have the right to access the mixnet. And then you can basically go through our volunteer network. Although if you want to run a mixed node, you're more than welcome, and you'll be rewarded a NIM token. Choose what entry you want to go in and what exit you want to come out in. And then choose if you want to be anonymous, you want to go through a full mixed net, or you just want to kind of pop in the last node and pop out pop in the first and pop out the last. That's more of a decentralized VPN, not as anonymous, a bit faster. I, of course, recommend anonymous mode. So you just click connect, and the mixnet turns on. And I think that's incredibly important that we make this easy to use because, again, the more people that use it, the more anonymous everyone is. And in the background, what's happening, I'll wrap up, sorry. What's happening in the background is, eventually when we're kind of ready, this is the beta, it's free, but when we expect people will eventually pay for it, they can pay in Bitcoin or Monero or whatever, credit cards via Stripe. People who may know nothing about crypto, but want to be private or anonymous, and even anonymous on the internet, they can use that credit card, sign in, and they will get an anonymous credential, because one of the dangers of VPNs is that you don't want your payment info connected to your VPN session. We want that disconnected, completely disassociated. And so you get an anonymous credential that proves that you paid. That anonymous credential is re-randomizable, the bitwise unlinkable to your initial payment, and then you use that to log in to the mixnet, and that mixnet takes that money, converts it into NIM token, and runs a buy order effectively. And that NIM token then gets distributed to the decentralized network of all these wonderful people running mixed nodes all over the world. And if that works, we'll have a kind of what I would call a mutually beneficial cycle, which will allow more and more people to access the network. As more people access the network, they will, basically not even knowing about it, but just using their credit card, get more and more NIM tokens, and then the network can then make more money and then get bigger and have more and more coverage and better machines and faster machines. Right now, the network, people are barely getting by, but if people join and the app works, we think it's going to explode. And right now, we're at the beta launch, but in November, we're going to launch the full thing with post-quantum crypto, working with DJB and other folks on that, Karthik. We're going to have censorship resistance. Right now, it does not work particularly well in countries that have firewalls, particularly, like, say, China, Russia. We do think that everyone deserves uncensored, decentralized access to the internet with privacy, so we want that to work. And we're going to try to push this all out by end of the year. And the reason why we're pushing it all out ASAP is because we do not have much time. After the elections, no matter who wins, there will be chaos spreading throughout the world as the American empire, faster or slower, unravels. And what we're seeing rise is artificial intelligence. So I end here. I spoke about it a bit yesterday. I don't have a PhD in crypto, I have a PhD in AI. That's me at the Googleplex years ago as a much younger version, discussing with Peter Norvig, the head of research at Google, and PhD advisor of Larry Brin, that's Terry Winograd, discussing the future of AI. And what I realized about AI, which is why we decided to build NIM, is that AI, I'm okay with, I believe that we can evolve humans, and we can evolve more intelligent kinds of humans, and why not? I don't believe it's theoretically impossible to evolve genuine intelligent life. However, what is AI used for today is not that. What AI is used for today, when you type in the ChatGPT, is you're training ChatGPT, and it's taking all the human knowledge on the web and regurgitating it back to you. And when you believe that's intelligent, you reified it. You're imagining it's intelligent, but it's essentially a web search engine based on your knowledge and your prompts, you in the collective sense of all humanity. And then as we build these more and more complex machine learning systems, what we're actually seeing them use is tracking, surveillance. I can look at the bits on your internet connection. I can figure out what you're doing. I can de-anonymize you. And I can track you, and I can send a drone to you. I can drone strike you. I can lock you in your room. It's terrible. Most things AI is used for today is for control and capture and manipulation of human individuals. I think Gav had a video on this. We'll probably say more later. But because this technology is so rapidly growing, we need to up our game and we need to defend ourselves. And that is one reason why we built NIM to basically, what AI does is discover signals and data that humans can't find easily, and we add noise to that data. And we believe that humans working together, the future will not be an intergalactic brain built by OpenAI or Google enforcing their power structure for us for all eternity, demanding that we bend the knee to some silicon god. I think that's absurd. But I do believe that the future will look more like Web3 and hopefully NIM, that we can enable our own collective intelligence, coordinate better, faster, more democratically, in a more decentralized way, realizing the vision of the original anarchists at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, that we could replace the state by a decentralized network of communes and collectives and co-ops, that we can make that vision possible and enable our intelligence to solve the real problems that face us, particularly problems such as global climate change, problems of reinventing the economy. This can all be done, but in order to do it, we have to defend ourselves against control, and that's why what we've built NIM to do. So come, we're going to give a workshop after the talk to the right. Let's defeat Silicon Valley, and I'll say it one more time. Again, years ago, I came here, I said, our job is to give power to the people. I do want to thank everyone. With your support, we've helped deliver, and now we just need to give, again and again, power to the people. That's it.